This is the time frame where I normally cover a major technical report. But this weekend we have a special subject entitled Formula One. How much does it all cost? Our objective will be to expose the true cost of campaigning a Formula One team. And what better place to start than with one of the men who pay all the bills, Frank Williams, owner-manager of Williams Grand Prix Engineering Limited. Frank, how much money is involved to campaign two cars capable of winning the World Championship?
The cost varies from the type of team to the type of team. A major manufacturer like Renault will probably spend 2 or 3 times what we will spend. In 1984, we anticipate spending, even though our engines will be free, we'll be spending approximately £4.5 million sterling. That's about $7.5 million.
Now, how is that broken down? How much of that is covered by sponsorship?
Oh, nearly all of it is sponsorship, because you can't predict accurately at all how much revenue from prize money that you would generate, so you have to go for broke, go to obtain total coverage, financial coverage from sponsorship. One isn't always that lucky, and you have to use all of your prize money. But in the main, it's 90–95% is sponsorship.
So the prize money or the start money is just frosting on top of the cake?
If you get enough of it, and if you've got enough sponsorship in the first place to cover all of your costs, which almost never happens.
The most heavily paid are the drivers. Now, we hear about 6- and 7-figure numbers for driver salaries. Do either of your drivers get that kind of money?
I can't be specific because that's not proper, but a world-class driver will earn in excess, will be paid by his team $1 million plus. And he'll earn more than that in prize money and sponsorship, endorsements, etc.
Do you feel that that's worth it to pay a driver for that much, just for driving the car and product endorsement?
Frankly, I don't, but you cannot deny market forces, and if there's several people chasing the same senior or top driver, if you're prepared to enter a Dutch auction, which you maybe have to, then you have to match the price to keep him.
Now, when we first met back in 1969, you had 2 mechanics, 1 Brabham, a spare engine that was only around once in a while. How much did you spend your first year in Formula One?
Well, part of my problem then was I never controlled the money, so I can't answer that question accurately, but I suppose around £50–70,000.
But it was good racing then, close, competitive, your cars were always well prepared. Where did the escalation in costs come? What part of the car started costing more?
The difference is that in those days we were never winning. Once you're serious about winning, you spend whatever it takes within reason to do that, to keep up technically.
You were one of the team managers that were originally against a turbocharged Formula One field. Now, today you've announced that you'll have the Honda Turbo next year. Again, another cost escalation.
Well, I've been obliged to go turbo because without it the team won't survive. We now have a formula that principally is a horsepower race, and you only get that horsepower by running turbo engines. The reason I was against it, and in a way still am, is that the Grand Prix racing should be a category of racing that joins the best from the driver's ability and the designer's ability and the horsepower ability of a manufacturer. And now primarily it very much depends on how many horsepower you have, how you win your races. And I don't think that is very healthy, neither competitively nor financially. Certainly the formula now as it exists can only be supported by motor car manufacturers.
So $7 million. How would you go about reducing any costs in Formula One then?
Once you've started on a program, it's very difficult to backtrack, but I suppose you have to restrict the horsepower.
You were the first man to go to the Middle East for sponsorship. How did that all come about?
Necessity. I needed the money, and I figured there was some money there if you tried hard enough to find it.
What do you provide your sponsors throughout a racing season?
What do we give them? Well, we hope a lot of international exposure, principally on television, a good, successful image, and an association with very competitive high technology.
Frank, you've been at the top of the sport for the last 3 years, 3 championships in those many seasons. Is your interest waning at all? What would it take for you to actually leave Formula One?
Well, what it would take is for me to lose interest, but I just don't think that's ever going to happen. I've been in it for a long time, and I would guess I'll be in it till they carry me away somewhere.
Thank you very much, Frank. We're with Mo Nunn, who is the owner-manager of the Theodore Racing team. Mo, it's been said that over the years you've gotten more racing out of the dollar than anyone else. How much does your team spend on a full Grand Prix season?
Well, this year we will spend about $1.1 million.
Now, we've just been talking to Frank Williams, as you know, and he spends a great deal more of that. How can you compete against a team that's outspending you by 3 times as much?
Well, we can't really compete in sheer competition. All we can hope is that we try to do the job as well as we can with the dollars we have, but we could go a lot quicker with more dollars. Dollars, I'm afraid, in Formula One buys you seconds, buys you lap time, better engines, a lot more testing, so development, you could just go a lot quicker.
Now, Mo, you've always depended on your drivers bringing money into the team. Why hasn't Theodore Racing been able to find their own commercial sponsors?
I think that's down to me, that maybe I'm just not a good sponsor chaser. We try our best, but it's very difficult when you're a small team to convince a major company to sponsor you. I mean, normally major companies like to get involved with also big companies that are sound and financially successful. So it's difficult to get someone to give you that chance.
So your role within Formula One is to provide a medium ground. I mean, your cars score points, they represent their sponsors well, but you still can't draw the big dollar companies. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's true. So normally I would say our team is looked upon as, of the smaller teams, one where a new driver can come in and get the best dollar deal that he's able to, get the best car for himself. In as much that I think right at the moment the 7 Grand Prix drivers here started with our team. But as soon as we've trained them or done the first year, they have their hopes set on a bigger team.
Mo, what would it take for you to stop racing in Formula One?
If I can't raise a minimum of $2.25 million next year, then I will stop. And also, I will definitely stop Formula One if we had to continue with the Cosworth engine.
So there you have the story. 2 teams competing for the same world championship, separated by only 2 seconds on the grid and $6 million in the bank. It was Graham Hill that said, "Speed costs money. How fast do you want to go?"